Hey, highly recommenders, another highly recommended vlog edition. Today we got Riley, who is the Cannabis Chem on Instagram and TikTok, as well as on LinkedIn. Just basically, she is someone that's highly recommended in the cannabis industry, dropping knowledge bombs left and right, and it's just paving the way for our industry and especially a lot of newcomers. So just want to touch light on who she is, what she brings to the table, and why she's highly recommended, especially to the cannabis industry. Riley, thank you for taking the time. How
Yeah,
you
for
doing
sure.
today?
I'm doing excellent. Yeah, just had a pretty slow morning, and I love slow mornings, so I'm just kind of vibing.
I like to hear that. So if you don't mind me starting off with the question of what really made you jump into the cannabis industry?
Yeah, what made me jump into the cannabis industry was actually just the lack of understanding of the compounds in cannabis. I specialized in natural products for a long time, but I didn't specifically specialize in cannabis until I talked to a lot of people who wanted to know more about it, but there just wasn't enough free resources. So that's when I really started making TikToks and just talking about it with people. And that went really well. I never thought I'd be able to get into the cannabis industry because it always kind of seemed like so elusive and I don't know, selective. I don't know. But
Elite.
once I started talking about it and explaining things in a different way than what people have heard before, there was kind of a demand for it, and that led to me becoming a cannabis researcher, which has honestly been absolutely amazing.
Now, don't want to be sexist or stereotypical of anything, but what was it like being a female, especially on the academic side of life coming into the cannabis industry? Was there any negative stereotypes or any pushback that you received? Were you open about it, about your cannabis use, or are you just now becoming open about it now that things are starting to change in society?
No, I mean, I've always been extremely open about my cannabis use. I mean, I've been using cannabis since I was 14, pretty much regularly every day. And I mean, even in grad school where almost nobody regularly uses cannabis, I was extremely open about it because I just didn't really care. I didn't think it was going to negatively affect my life because I was still, in my opinion, one of the hardest workers, one of the, most I was problem solving. I was just able to do my job really well. So I don't think anyone ever like correlated cannabis with me doing something wrong. So it was totally fine. But I think more of the issue has been when I entered the cannabis space. There's I think people struggle with the concept of somebody who has their PhD, is a female, and smokes weed every day. So I think people struggle with actually thinking that it's real and like the intersectionality of all these different things. Like, okay, you're an academic, but you smoke weed, and it's like that is possible. There are people who do that, but I don't usually smoke weed on camera, and I mean, that's also just because you can't on a lot of platforms. But I think a lot of people only trust people when they're actively smoking weed on camera, and that's just not really my vibe of my channel. I don't you can use cannabis if you want. You can not use cannabis as you want if you don't want. I'm just here to give some free knowledge, and you do you. I'm gonna do me. But there's been a lot of pushback just because I am a classic academic. I mean, I don't work in academia anymore, and I mean, I talk about this a lot, but there's a reason I don't work in academia anymore. I don't like the vibes of academia. It's very sterile, sometimes judgmental, etc. I don't need to go into that right now, but I yeah, I've definitely received some pushback from the community just saying like essentially like you're not one of us, like you're an outsider kind of stuff. But
Okay. So they may that could, so on the cannabis side, you're like a unicorn. You shouldn't exist in reality in a sense because you are a scientific researcher who's a female and does utilize cannabis as well as enjoys using it besides on the medical aspects from it. But then on the academic side, you're not you're in a sense a poser, I guess. You're not a part of that club. Uh, so it sounds like you're just trying to find or you're creating your own little way in, or creating your own subsection. It sounds
yeah,
like.
so I never wanted to join academia, like being a professor. That was never a goal of mine. But I'm just really thankful for the team I work for now because the other scientists I work with, Dr. Miyabi Shields, we both have this very unique idea, like ideas of what education is, what education should be, what research is needed, especially in the cannabis space. And we make a really good team of just people who think similarly. We both use cannabis every day. We're super open about it. But yeah, we're not anti-academia. We just don't believe like it's our place in academia. But there are stereotypes associated with legitimately everything in life. So I understand the pushback and the confusion because we don't really fit. We're like a square that just does not fit into the circle hole. And I love it. I think it's cool. I love the space that we're kind of forging into of these like cannabis researchers that are studying things that people want to learn about. And I think it's awesome.
Now, one thing I'm sure you've heard about, especially with the emerging markets in all these states, is that there's a common trend of a boys' club, a men's only kind of industry. Uh, Coming into it, and as you continue your journey, is that something that you feel is a real thing, or have you witnessed any of those incidents, or
Yeah.
as has that not been a part of your journey?
It's 100,000% a thing for sure, especially in like the cannabis chemistry community. There is kind of a boys club. There's certain accounts on Instagram that have about a 90% male following, so it's almost all dudes. And there's a lot of hate on those pages. It's all they've reposted my content a few times, and all the comments are hate comments, like all of them.
There's
And
no doubt.
a lot of people would be like, "Well, I want to keep my video up because it's getting so much exposure, whatever." I'm like, I messaged them just like, "Can you take this down?" And like, I don't want to be part of that community. There's a lot better people on the internet that I would love to, share the knowledge I have with, and they really respect that knowledge and they're very kind to me, and like that's the community I want to be a part of. The boys club will probably always exist, but it doesn't mean you have to be part of it. It doesn't mean I have to be like, oh, let me in, let me be part of this seems so cool. I'd rather just say, you do you, you're creating that toxic environment, that's totally fine, but we're entering a new age of cannabis where we don't need to act like that, we don't need that exclusivity, we need more positive vibes in cannabis, which I think is crazy to say because, again, like stereotypically, I'm supposed to be the stuck up one that's like mean to people on the internet. And that's not the case. Like, I am extremely chill on the internet, and I expected other people to be in the cannabis community. And I was shocked when like there was a lot of negativity, a lot of hate, a lot of judgment, and that's just very contradicting to everything that cannabis stands for. So it's totally fine. I think there's so many people, especially women that I've met in the industry, that are shifting it the other direction, and I see it being very positive in the future. So yeah, boys club exists, but it doesn't have to be the only thing that exists.
Now, coming in my legal journey and my corporate journey of the cannabis side, because I've been grew up around it my whole life in the traditional market, and yeah, coming into it as the curtains are starting to open up, I realized that yeah, on the corporate side, there's very much that Chad vibe, a lot of people coming in that don't know anything about cannabis, never had to put their skin in the game for it, and are just jumping in to make the money. But there's also a few that I've noticed that are actually more about the patient care. And then on the traditional side, as you were stating, there's a lot of judgment, a lot of judgment of, like I said, oh, you didn't put your skin in the game. You didn't really risk anything, and here you are coming in trying to act like you know everything, and then here you are, and other individuals like you is like, hey, everyone can get along. Let's all
Yeah.
share knowledge. Like, there's no reason, and I fully agree with it. And that's what blows my mind right now. Is like, there's no reason to not get along with everyone
And
at all.
there really is space for everyone unless you're someone trying to take up too much space. And those are the people that are usually meeting people with hate and judgment, is they feel like they're going to get taken over by someone else in the cannabis community. But the cannabis, like economically, the cannabis industry is growing exponentially, meaning that there's more space for more people too. We can't expect just the people that were, almost arrested or arrested to be the only people allowed to sell cannabis, to talk about cannabis. That just doesn't make sense. We need to be adaptive. The cannabis industry is adaptive. We need people for every section, every educational level. Even, some people don't want to hear the education. That's cool. You don't have to. If you like just smoking weed to smoke weed, you do you. That sounds awesome. You've probably done it for a long time. Keep doing it. But then there's people like that are almost a little scared of cannabis. They want someone to break it down. They want it to just be like presented in a very like professional way. And that's where other people come in. That's kind of where we're at. We're trying to just talk to, if your mom wanted to use cannabis, if you were a bit afraid to use cannabis, if you're afraid of psychosis, what are the risks of this? We're here to talk about that. But, I also will point people towards people in the legacy industry that know a lot more about all the stuff happening over there that I'm not going to talk about. I'm no expert in that, and I'm not pretending to be. I'm just talking about the science, and that's what I specialize in. But there's no way one person can specialize in the entire cannabis industry. That's absurd.
Now, if you don't mind me putting it all into one little category, I know it's a pain to say that, but is that in a sense what your goal is and what you sort of want to accomplish? Is to just basically broaden people's mindset in regards to how they look and feel about cannabis?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I would say I want to broaden people's mindset, but also, education is the key to harm reduction, to preventing things like CHS, psychosis, all of the negative things in cannabis. Education is the key to talking about that and preventing it. If we just say cannabis is 100% safe for absolutely everyone, use whatever dose you want, nothing bad is ever going to happen, that's not the truth. I mean, I would say the benefits greatly outweigh the risks. But there are risks, especially if you're already like genetically predisposed to like mental health issues. It's something that we need to talk about. And what I'm doing on the internet is I'm essentially teaching chemistry and pharmacology, but all in the lens of cannabis. So I'm trying to make it interesting to people, but also understanding like those compounds in cannabis are binding to things in your brain and changing the chemistry of your brain. And this can be good or it can be bad over time. So we just need to talk about it and just making sure that everyone's educated and comfortable with how we're moving forward with our cannabis use.
No. With you expanding on the knowledge and information towards potential users or those who are interested in cannabis, is that what you're doing with your profession now or professionally now? Do you teach classes or just basically, to be blunt about it, if you don't mind me asking, what do you do besides dropping knowledge on TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I actually work for a research company. So the company I work for is called Real Isolates, and we have licensed a product called Smoke and All. So it's a unique cannabis smoke extract. And the goal here is incredibly innovative. The goal here is to create an edible that feels more like smoking. Because if you've smoked weed and you've eaten weed, you know that they're different feelings. And that is because when you are smoking weed, the fire, that really hot temperature, is actually transforming some of those chemicals into new chemicals. So that's why it feels different in your body compared to edibles. So what we've done is we've actually taken the cannabis, smoked it in an oven, and then recaptured those cannabinoids and put them into an extract. So now that extract can be put into edibles or tinctures or capsules or whatever you want, and it makes you feel more like smoking compared to traditional edibles that are made with just THC isolate or, or just a unsmoked extract.
And this is the group that you're talking about that you found not too long ago or recently that just basically fitting in that you felt is like basically another home in a sense. What's the company called or group called?
Yep. So the company is called Real Isolates. I'm just incredibly fortunate to work for them. Dr. Miyabi Shields found me through TikTok. Actually, we met up for brunch when I was living in Rhode Island. Miyabi was living in Boston. They messaged me and said, "Hey, found your TikTok account. Looks really cool. We should just meet up and chat." So when we got chatting, we realized we both had these really, really inline views with academia, research, cannabis. We have these like very niche views on like whole extracts versus isolated compounds. But essentially, after we met up, we were like, wow, we are very compatible from like a research standpoint. Miyabi had studied the endocannabinoid system in your body. I had studied plant metabolites in grad school, so those kind of just fit together perfectly. Miyabi had started a company with their business partner, and they said, "Do you want to come work for us, essentially, or do you want to interview to work with us as a scientist?" And I got the job, which is kind of obvious now that I'm talking about it. But the thing I love most about the job is yes, I do research, but my job is still education. Real Isolates is incredibly dedicated to education. And, part of what they pay me for is education, not just for our product, but education for just cannabis. They are incredibly dedicated to that. So a lot of what I do is social media, education, research, writing papers, interviewing people. Just it's like a very diverse job. And I had no idea that a job like this would exist, and I'm just so thankful to be working here.
That's amazing. That's like a dream come true, especially for anyone in any industry. The fact that you went from doing what you were passionate about to going into actually having a job, continuing to do exactly what you're doing prior. It's just now you're getting paid for it.
Yeah,
That's an amazing journey.
it was really cool because in grad school they kind of tell you, okay, when you graduate, here are your two options. You have your PhD. You can either become a professor and do a postdoc, go to school more, and then finally become a professor. Or you can go the industry route where you go work for like Pfizer or someone else in big pharma. So I was at the end of my PhD and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do either of those things. Like, what on earth am I going to do? And the timing worked out so perfectly with Real Isolates that I started my position 1 week after I graduated with my PhD. So it was just perfect.
Real quick, congratulations on the PhD.
Thanks.
I was gonna ask that, but yeah, you are a PhD. You do have your PhD.
Yep.
That's hard work. That's a lot of work to get, and a lot of hours in school. I have a few medical friends of mine, and they have no life besides school, and it's
Yeah,
congratulations.
I would not recommend that journey for everyone. It is it is a
Yeah,
lot.
don't
I
worry.
mean,
I didn't go that route.
no, I like looking back, I don't know if I would do it again, but it's mentally taxing when essentially like all your friends are like getting married and buying houses and have these awesome jobs and you're like, I'm still in school, and you just kind of feel like your life's been stagnant for way too long.
Yeah, but now it's like a rocket ship from outsider looking in. It's like your life is just Elon Musked it right, SpaceX right into space.
Oh yeah, it's good
You
now for
are
sure.
you're definitely on the ball. So real quick, uh, what is what has been a favorite? Let me best phrases. What has been something special to you or important, uh, meaningful that has occurred since you started on your journey, informing people about cannabis? What has been something that is actually like that you won't forget? I know it's been such a short time span, but is there anything that sticks out in your mind that you've helped someone, or the fact that you got the job right after, or got this opportunity right after graduating? Anything along the lines that sticks out?
I mean, there's a couple things. I would say first, just again, like I didn't know what I wanted to do, and that scared me a lot, but I didn't I didn't settle for something that I didn't want to do because I'd spent so much time in school. I was like, at this point, I'm not doing a job I don't enjoy after all of this. So, like anyone who's kind of in that position, whether it be after high school, after undergraduate, after PhD, whatever, like there are positions out there. You need to look really hard, and if people see that you're passionate about something, that's going to be the best thing on your resume. That's the way you hold yourself and the way that you show your passion to people is the best thing you can do for getting into the position you want to do in life. And I mean, I was offered positions, in big pharma, but if you've listened to my TikToks, the things I preach about are not in line with big pharma. It's all about plant extracts, plant medicine. So it just, stick with your gut. Don't settle for things. But I think the most impactful thing for me is just the amount of like emails I get just saying like thank you so much for putting the information out there. Like we know you're doing this for free. We like the TikToks and stuff, and we really appreciate you taking the time to do it. And those become more and more important with the more and more hate comments you get because people are so mean to people on the internet, and then you see creators just drop off and stop making content. Everyone's like, why did you stop? And it's like, you guys are assholes. Like, of course people stop making content. So it's nice to get the positive comments to outweigh the negative ones. And anyone listening to this, don't post hate comments on people's videos. Just keep going about your day. They do not add anything into the universe that has any positivity.
That that's appalling to me. The fact that you are someone who looks virtually innocent and you're dropping information without asking a price sign for it, and yet they're still negatively commenting on your posts and your videos is just mind blowing to me. And with that being said, from myself and all of my followers and the highly recommenders, I thank you. We thank you for the information and everything that you've been doing, which is why I'm interviewing you today. I mean, you are touching on many people's lives in a aspect that they wouldn't really think about on a common basis. And then here you are, like the Kool-Aid man, when you stroll through the Instagram reels, just dropping information that you don't ever think about. Like you literally just talked about tea breaks a week ago. You talked about CBG a few weeks ago. You talked about, I do believe you talked about the difference of the effects between edibles and smoking. You lightly touched on it in the beginning of this conversation as well, and I could vouch about that. I mean, I took an edible once and almost felt like I was on the onset of tripping. So the fact that you're dropping
Yeah.
all this that you're providing all of this information without asking anything in return other than, hey, can we all get along? Can you not post douchey stuff or comment douchey stuff on
It's
my
so easy.
videos? I'd be great. We all could get along then.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I do appreciate that. Thank you very much for that.
Of course.
Now, one thing I do like to ask everyone when I do my interviews, because I am the highly recommended, I only review, interview, cover anything and everything that's highly recommended. What is highly recommended to you? And it could be anything, everything, person, place, thing, food, cannabis. What's highly recommended to you?
Yeah, so I'm gonna do my classic hippie thing where I'm gonna talk about something that's a place, kind of. I think a lot of time people, when they're struggling with mental health, whether it's depression, anxiety, um, honestly anything, if you're in a bad place, I think often we turn to things like cannabis, which really can help. We have data. Cannabis can help for sure. But also learning other ways to relieve that stress, that anxiety, that are, not substance based. So, not cannabis, not a pill. If you can learn to, when you're starting to feel that way, to like go outside and take a long walk, I think the outdoors is the most therapeutic thing you can possibly do for your mental health. So, I would say highly recommended is when you're feeling anxious or depressed, get yourself outside, go for a walk, and just try to enjoy nature for what it is. It's absolutely beautiful. And I would say I've never had a bad time going for a walk, and I always come back in a better mood and have more like appreciation for the world. So I guess my highly recommended is instead of turning to substances, just try more, I don't know, integrative things like going outside. And I think it can be really beneficial.
There you go, highly recommenders. You heard it from Riley herself. Don't rely on substance. Try to find another outlet. Maybe go for a walk. Maybe talk with a friend. Maybe in my instance, go train. Go do some jujitsu.
Exercise is great.
Don't rely on substances alone. Try to find something else. Now, Riley, where can we find you at? Okay, do you have a website? We do know you have an Instagram and a TikTok, but what are those?
Yep. So my Instagram and TikTok name are CannabiChem, CannabiChem. I don't have a website, but the company I work for, if you go to my Instagram or TikTok, it's going to be in the bio. It's just called smokeandall.com. So you can check out about that. We have like a little news thing if you want to see what new dispensaries we're in or stuff like that. My email is cannabichem@gmail.com. You're always welcome to email me. Yeah, and that's all the social media I'm using at this point.
All right, and highly recommenders, even though she permitted us to email her, again, that does not mean to be emailing anything provocative, anything negative. Don't be a douche. That's it. Don't be a loser. She's a kind-hearted person that doesn't have to be doing what she's doing, yet she chooses to. And again, we all thank you, especially myself. We all thank you for that. And for doing this interview, I highly thank you for that. And
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been great.
no problem. All right, guys. Have a great one. Thank you, Riley. Go on.
Yeah, of course.